What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. So this here is actually last week's quad focus lower body session, which I do every Saturday. So this was recorded several days ago. It's currently the 13th of August, Saturday the 13th of August, as I'm recording this voiceover, but this session was exactly 1 week ago. I did record today's session, although I have to obviously go through all the post-production jazz, and that takes quite a few hours. So I figured I will get this one up as well as one other video before I get that one up. And so as you can see here, I'm starting off with deadlifts. This is 270 kilo for 4. And I just did these beltless. Then I basically stripped the weight down to 220 kilo. And I did beltless set of 8 with no rest between pretty much. And after that, I was pretty cooked. These were not in my program. I want to make that very clear, which is probably very, very thoughtless of me. I shouldn't have done them. If something's not in your program and your goal is to progress as efficiently as possible, you probably shouldn't go off program. But this is a perfect example and a prime example of coaches are not immune to this. We have days where we're just like, you know what, screw it, let's send it. But as a coach, we're typically very cognizant of the fact that it's self-inflicted, whatever might come as a result of doing so. And after doing deadlifts, when they were not programmed in my program, and the fact that I haven't deadlifted over 220 kilo for 3 years, and I just decided to max out going 270 kilo for 4, there's going to be some consequences from doing that. But yeah, I skipped calf raises to do deadlifts, which I will not be doing again, because even though they moved relatively well, I accumulated a heck load of fatigue from doing so. And that's something I want to make very clear. If you're a client of a coach, make sure you stick to the program. Don't go off program. If you do, you might have to deal with what I have to deal with now, which is accepting the fact and owning up to the fact that I have probably jeopardized my progression for the next few weeks in this training session. I probably won't progress on any of these exercises for a few weeks. And if I do, it would just be very lucky, and I'll be very grateful if I do. But the problem is when you max out on something, especially a barbell movement like a squat or a deadlift, it causes a lot of stimulus, which will obviously help promote muscle growth. But at the same token, the amount of fatigue you accumulate in doing so as well, it just doesn't really make it worthwhile in almost every scenario. And in my scenario, it definitely didn't make it worthwhile. So I have to deal with the self-inflicted consequences of probably not progressing on a lot of heavier lower body movements for the coming weeks, because I decided to max out on an exercise that wasn't even in my program. But yeah, I can't blame anybody else. I can only blame myself, and I'm completely okay with that, but I definitely won't be doing it again. Anyway, I followed that up with some lying leg curls. I always like to do some leg curls before I do any squatting movements. I find that it helps warm everything up, and everything just feels a lot better. And I actually perform better as a result. You would think, because you're obviously pre-fatiguing your hamstrings a little bit by doing a hamstring isolation movement before doing a squatting pattern movement, that you would somehow see a little bit of a reduced ability to perform, or like a reduced output on the squatting movement then, because it's obviously preceding and not preceding the leg curl. But I actually find the opposite. I find if I do a hamstring curl, even if I take it close to failure, going onto a hack squat or a leg press afterwards, I find I'm actually stronger. I'm more primed to perform well, probably just because everything feels more quote unquote lubricated. That's what she said. But yeah. I just want to mention too, guys, if you've made it this far, please stick to the end, to the very end. I do address what the title of this video is about, and I do kind of give my 2 cents on how I approach things when I am not feeling motivated, and how I stay consistent when I'm not feeling motivated or driven to go to the gym or stick to my nutrition. But in the meantime, I'm just going to walk you through my training session. So yeah, after the lying hamstring curls, I jumped onto the hack squat. I kept it relatively light. I think I did 4 plates aside for a set of 6 to 10, just because I have been dealing with a little bit of a knee niggle lately. So I just kind of kept the reps relatively controlled. I did 1 set. I normally have 2 sets. I have a heavy set and a back off set, but I skipped the second set just to give my knee a little bit of rest. And I made note of that in my program, so I know for future reference that I did less volume than I was meant to do in this session. Then I moved on to my leg extension exercise here. I did a couple sets of 12 to 15. And these moved pretty well. The knee was feeling really good on these, surprisingly. I know a lot of people don't like leg extensions, specifically the hammer strength one, but I actually really like it. I think if you get your setup right, if you have the seat set in the right spot, and you keep the tempo controlled, and you think about flexing the quad at the top as opposed to just kicking the feet up to the ceiling, you actually get a really, really good mind to muscle connection, and it doesn't feel too bad on the knees. But if you're just using a lot of momentum, allowing the weight to drop on the way back down, then yeah, you're going to probably feel all knees and no quads. It's not about what you do in the gym a lot of the time, it's about how you do it. It's really important to remember that. But yeah, did some leg extensions, and I always kind of send it on these. I'll always have these programmed for around 1 to 2 reps in reserve, sometimes 0 reps in reserve if it's the final week of a mesocycle before I have a deload and reset for a new block. And then after leg extensions, I jumped onto the Good Girl machine and did some adductor work. This machine is incredibly awkward. It's actually probably the worst adductor machine I've ever used. The pad placement for the inner thighs is utterly terrible. The placement for the foot pegs equally as bad, and all in all, it just feels like a very shitty machine. But it's the only one I've access to at this gym. Would be nice if they had a better brand here, something like either a Cybex Arsenal Strength or a Precor one. But you gotta make do with what you've got, and beggars can't be choosers, as they say. So yeah, I did a couple sets on adductors here. I go relatively heavy on these, usually anywhere between 8 to 15 reps. I never really go lower than 8 ever. Then I never really go above 15 reps either, just because the ROI, return on investment, when it comes to muscle accrued over time or muscle growth over time, just doesn't really justify going higher than 15 reps a lot of the time. Maybe I'll do it for one block to kind of prime the next block, potentiate it, but that's about it. Hopefully that stays there. So yeah, just as you would have seen then, I just did my lower body session. Went a little bit off program this week, and potentially messed the progression up for the entire mesocycle, the entire training block, but I felt like going a little bit heavier, and I was willing to accept the repercussions that I might not progress for a few weeks as a result of going off program and maxing out, so to speak. I come from a powerlifting background, but I haven't deadlifted over 220 kilo for, I'd like to say, 3 years now. Today I just figured, you know what, why not try deadlifting 260 beltless for reps, max reps, after not deadlifting anything over 220 for 3 years and not deadlifting at all for the past 3 or so weeks. And it didn't really go that well, didn't go to plan. I got, as you would have seen, 4 reps out, and then I just dropped it down, backed it off to 220, and I did a set of 8 at that. I didn't rest between it. I just kind of like unloaded the bar and went straight into it. I wanted to kind of touch on something that a lot of my clients have actually been reaching out to me about in their check-ins lately, and that is not having motivation or a lack of drive to go to the gym and get to the gym and get the session done. And today was one of those days for me, and my partner, she's been going through a bit of a motivation slump herself as well, and I think it's just pretty typical this time of the year with flu season here in Australia, being winter and all, or the tail end of winter I should say. And I mean, the immune system's taken a pretty big beating this time of the year, and everyone's feeling a little bit run down, and you just don't really feel like yourself. So it's pretty natural and pretty normal to get a little bit down in the dumps and a little less motivated when you have to get to the gym to train when it comes to training time. My clients have asked me like, have you got any advice for what to do? And I mean, it's as simple as just showing up to the gym. Today was one of those days for me. I didn't feel like training at all, and I said, you know what, I just need to rock up to the gym. Once I get to the gym, once I unpack my stuff, get some blood moving through the body, I'll feel a bit better. I'll feel a lot better about it all. And so that's what I did. I went to the gym. I did a bit of warming up on the treadmill, because being a weekend day, I tend to not do as much walking throughout the day. I tend to skip my midday walk. So as soon as I was going to the gym, I figured, you know what, I'll jump on the treadmill and I'll just walk for about 20 to 30 minutes first, get some blood flowing and clock some daily steps up so I can hit my daily step target. My body's feeling a little bit beat up at the moment. My hack squats, I mentioned in the voiceover that they didn't feel amazing, and the reason for that, obviously, I did something to my Achilles on my right leg. I don't know what. I was literally laying in bed, and it was in the middle of the night. I woke up and I went to point my toes, and then it felt like I strained my Achilles tendon just from pointing my toes while I was laying in bed. And so it must be old age, I'm not too sure. Old age at a young, ripe age of 28. I went a little bit lighter on the hack squats, but the moral of this whole rant is sometimes you're just not going to feel like going to the gym, and you've just got to turn up, you just got to show up. It's just like your job, like your day-to-day job, or paying your bills. It's like you might not feel motivated to do it, but you do it because the consequence or the potential outcome is going to be undesirable or dire potentially if you don't do that on a consistent basis. If you don't pay your rent on time for a number of weeks, you're going to get evicted. If you don't turn up to work for a number of days, you're going to get fired. If you don't turn up to the gym for a number of days, you're going to lose muscle, you're going to get fat, and it's going to be even harder to get back into it. So the best piece of advice I have for anybody that is struggling with motivation is to just suck it up. It's really that simple. It really is. Like, I can get all philosophical on you and talk to you about finding your why for training. And I mean, at the end of the day, you should know why you're training. Like, you should have established that before you started training. Like, there should be an underlying, intrinsic, internally built reason why you're going to the gym. Like, there's got to be some sense of fulfillment or some form of personal gain to be had from going to the gym. And if there isn't, then yeah, you're probably a little bit screwed. Assuming that you have a reason for why you're going to the gym, whether it be to get in shape because you don't feel confident in your own skin, you don't feel comfortable in your own skin and you want to, and you have a dream physique that you want to acquire and attain, and it's realistically attainable, and it's just a matter of being consistent and working towards it, then you've got your why. Now you just need to suck it up on the days that you don't feel like it and turn up. Mind you, if you haven't been training properly, if you haven't been having deloads throughout your training throughout the year, then you probably want to address that first, because aside from just feeling down in the dumps and feeling unmotivated due to just being a human being, like if you are genuinely run down and you are accumulating a disproportionate amount of fatigue from your training due to not periodizing it and not having scheduled lighter periods in your training or schedule easier weeks in your training, then yeah, you probably want to address that, because it could very well and truly be a build-up or accumulation of fatigue from getting inadequate sleep and going to failure every session of the week, every week of the training block. Keep that in mind. You should train hard, but you've got to train smart too. It's about training hard while training smart. And if you're doing that, then you're still feeling unmotivated and lacking drive here and there, day to day, when it comes to going to the gym, then you just need to suck it up and harden up and just go to the gym. If it's fatigue related, then you need to rest. Hopefully that answers the kind of question a lot of people find themselves asking. I've been doing this for a number of years now. I've been training for over a decade. I've been coaching for several years. I've been in the industry, working in the industry for several years. So I'd like to think I have a rough idea of what to do when you're feeling unmotivated, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have been doing it this long, that's for sure. Just suck it up. And if you're genuinely feeling fatigued and your delayed onset muscle soreness is dragging out longer than it was originally lasting, then yeah, you probably need to have a deload week, or potentially like a 2-week period of deloading. Sometimes a 2-week deload period or a 1 to 2 week break from the gym entirely is warranted once a year. But if you're strategically planning your training out and you're training smart and intelligently, which I highly recommend doing, and if you don't know how to do that, I highly recommend getting a coach that does know how to do that. You should be sweet. Hopefully that helped if you are a little bit down in the dumps at the moment and struggling with motivation, provided that you don't need to deload and you're just feeling unmotivated. This is the advice for you. I'm going to get home, get ready, because it is a date night tonight with a girlfriend, and yeah, I am going to be late if I don't go now, and I've got hiccups. She's booked a lovely place in the city for dinner, so I'm looking forward to that. That said, guys, if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, like the video, hit the bell icon to get notified of new videos when they are uploaded, and comment down below if you have any ideas for future videos. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Until then, peace out.